How to negotiate a pay rise in the UK in 2025. Right, here's a number that should genuinely annoy you. The average UK worker loses out on over £500,000 across their career simply because they never ask for a pay rise. £500,000. Gone. Not because they didn't deserve it, but because they didn't know how to have that one uncomfortable conversation. Today, I'm going to make sure that's not you. So look, I get it. Asking for more money feels awkward. It feels a bit UN British, doesn't it? We're a nation that apologizes when someone else steps on our foot. The idea of walking into your manager's office and saying, "I want more money," feels about as natural as putting milk in first. But here's the thing, your employer is almost certainly not going to come to you and offer you more money out of the goodness of their heart. That's not how it works. You have to ask. And more importantly, you have to ask in the right way. Now, before we get into the actual tactics, let's talk about the landscape in 2025, because timing and context genuinely matter here. As of April 2025, the national living wage went up to £12.21 an hour. Employer national insurance contributions also went up from 13.8% to 15%. That's important context because your employer is already facing higher costs just to keep you on the payroll. So you might be thinking, well, that's terrible timing to ask for a raise then, isn't it? Actually, no. And I'll explain why. Inflation has been running hot for the last few years. We've all felt it: groceries, energy bills, rent, mortgage payments. Even though CPI has come down from its peak, real wages, meaning your actual purchasing power, have only recently started recovering. If you haven't had a pay rise that at least matches inflation over the last 2 or 3 years, you are effectively earning less than you were before. That's not an opinion. That's maths. And that is a perfectly reasonable thing to bring up with your employer. Right, so let's get into the actual strategy. I'm going to break this down into 5 steps. Step 1, know your number before you walk in the room. This sounds obvious, but most people skip it. You need to know exactly what people in similar roles, in your region, are earning right now. Not what you reckon. Not what your mate Dave says he's on after 4 pints. Actual data. Use tools like Glassdoor, Total Job Salary Checker, Reed, and the ONS earnings data, which is free, by the way. The Office for National Statistics publishes median earnings broken down by region, industry, and occupation. Absolute goldmine. If you're in a profession with a professional body, say you're a chartered accountant or a nurse or an engineer, they often publish annual salary surveys too. Once you've done that research, come up with a range. Not a single number, a range. For example, based on my research, similar roles in the South East are paying between £42,000 and £48,000, and I'm currently on £39,000. See how that works? You're anchoring the conversation with evidence, not emotion. Step 2, build your case like a business case, because that's exactly what it is. Your employer doesn't give you a pay rise because you're a lovely person. Sorry. They give you a pay rise because you're valuable. So your job is to make that value impossible to ignore. Before the meeting, literally write down, your key achievements from the last 12 months. Revenue you've brought in. Problems you've solved. Projects you've led. Processes you've improved. Times you went above and beyond your job description. If you can attach numbers to any of these, even better. I managed the onboarding of 30 new clients. Hits differently to I helped with onboarding. And here's a tip most people miss: think about the cost of replacing you. The CIPD estimates that the average cost of filling a vacancy in the UK is around £6,000 to £8,000 when you factor in recruitment fees, training, lost productivity. For senior roles, it's often way more than that. Your employer knows this, even if they don't say it out loud. You reminding them, subtly, that you're a known quantity with institutional knowledge? That's a strong card to play. Step 3, pick your moment carefully. Timing is not everything, but it's a lot. There are good times and bad times to have this conversation. Good times, after you've just delivered a successful project. During your annual review or appraisal, that's literally what it's there for. When the company has just announced strong results. When your team is short-staffed and you're clearly carrying extra weight. Bad times, the day redundancies are announced. Right after the company has lost a major client. On a Monday morning when your boss is clearly in a foul mood. Read the room. Also, and this is really practical, don't ambush your manager. Send them a message or an email beforehand saying something like, "I'd love to schedule some time to discuss my development and compensation. When works for you?" That's it. Professional. No drama. It gives them time to prepare too, which actually works in your favor because they're less likely to give you a knee-jerk no. Step 4, have the actual conversation, and don't apologize for it. This is where most people fall apart. They walk in, they get nervous, they start with "sorry to bother you," or "I know this is a bit awkward," and they've immediately undermined themselves. Instead, be direct and professional. Something like, "Thanks for making the time. I really enjoy working here and I'm committed to the team. Over the last year, I've taken on X, delivered Y, and contributed to Z. Based on my research into market rates for similar roles, I believe my compensation should reflect that contribution. I'd like to discuss moving my salary to the range of £X to £Y. Then, and this is crucial, stop talking. Let them respond. Silence is powerful. Most people are so uncomfortable with silence that they start backtracking or negotiating against themselves. Don't do that. State your case. Then zip it. Now, your manager might say yes straight away, brilliant. But more likely, they'll say one of a few things. They might say, "I need to take this to HR," or "let me speak to my director." That's fine. That's actually a good sign. It means they're taking it seriously. Agree a follow-up date right there and then. Don't let it drift into the void. They might say, "The budget isn't there right now." This is where step 5 comes in. Step 5, if they say no to more money, negotiate everything else. A pay rise isn't the only form of compensation. If the answer is genuinely no, and sometimes it is, fairly, then you can negotiate other things that have real financial value. Extra annual leave days. The ability to work from home more, saving you commuting costs. A one-off bonus. Professional development funding, courses, qualifications, conferences. Enhanced pension contributions, and honestly, this one is massively underrated. If your employer bumps their pension contribution from, say, 5% to 8%, that's essentially tax-free money going into your future. With salary sacrifice arrangements, it can be even more efficient from a tax perspective. You can also negotiate a structured timeline. Okay, if not now, what would I need to achieve in the next 6 months to make this happen? Can we agree on specific targets and revisit this in October? Get it in writing. An email confirming the conversation is fine. It creates accountability. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind specifically for 2025. If you're earning close to certain thresholds, a pay rise might interact with your tax situation in ways worth understanding. The personal allowance is still frozen at £12,570, and the higher rate threshold is frozen at £50,270. These have been frozen since 2021, which means more and more people are being dragged into higher tax brackets through what's called fiscal drag. So if a pay rise takes you from, say, £49,000 to £52,000, you'll start paying 40% tax on that portion above £50,270. It doesn't mean the pay rise isn't worth it, it absolutely is, but it's good to understand what your take-home will actually look like. Use an online salary calculator like Listen to Taxman or the Money Expert Income Tax Calculator. 2 minutes. Do it before you negotiate so you know exactly what you're working with. Also, And I think this is really important. If you've done all of this, you've made a strong case, you've been patient, you've hit every target they set for you, and they still won't budge. That tells you something. That tells you a lot, actually. Sometimes the best pay rise is the one you get by moving to a different employer. The data consistently shows that people who change jobs get significantly larger salary increases than people who stay put. I'm not saying jump ship at the first sign of resistance. But if you've been loyal, you've performed, and your employer won't invest in you, it might be time to see what else is out there. You owe it to yourself. So let's recap quickly. Know your market rate using real data. Build a specific, evidence-based case around your value. Choose your timing wisely and give your manager a heads up. Be direct, be professional, and don't apologize for valuing yourself. And if the answer is no to salary, negotiate the other stuff, and get a clear timeline in writing. That £500,000 I mentioned at the start? You claw that back one conversation at a time. And the first one is always the hardest. After that, it gets easier. I promise. If this was helpful, smash the subscribe button. I know everyone says that, but honestly, it makes a massive difference for the channel. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever successfully negotiated a pay rise? What worked for you? I'd love to hear your stories, and I reckon other people watching would find them really useful too. And if you want to understand more about how tax actually works on your salary, I've done a full breakdown. I'll link it right here. Go watch that next. I'll see you there.